Thank you. Good morning, everyone. At the outset, none of the authors have any financial interest. I'm Dr. Pavitra Patel, and my today's presentation will be on night with or without armor, ocular viscoelastic devices versus OVD-free implantation of ICLs. So it is a well-established fact that implantable collamer lens, better known as ICL, is a proven option for these high refractive errors not suitable for keratorefractive procedures. However, the major drawback of ICL is a rise of intraocular pressure in immediate postoperative period, most often due to the retained viscoelastic device. Therefore, to avoid the usage of OVDs, which can lead to OVD-related complications, we came up with our research question, which was, could OVD-free ICL implantation be safe and effective in reducing IOP spike in immediate postoperative period? So the aim of our study was to ascertain the safety and efficacy outcomes of OVD versus OVD-free implantation of ICL. So this was a retrospective study which included patients of the age group 18 to 40. All those patients who had a stable diffraction for more than a year had a central clear cornea with an anterior chamber depth of more than 3 millimeters and an anterior chamber angle of more than grade 2 on gonioscopy were included. And all those patients who had cataract or history of ocular inflammation, glaucoma, retinal detachment, macular degenerations, or any neuro-ophthalmic diseases were basically excluded. So the preoperative workup was reviewed. It included measuring the refractive status, keratometry, corneal topography for anterior chamber depth and pachymetry, specular microscopy for endothelial cell density, and dilated slit lamp evaluation to rule out any zonular weakness, gonioscopy to rule out angle closure, and slit lamp biomicroscopy, as well as indirect ophthalmoscopy to rule out any retinopathies and macular degenerations. So white to white was measured using digital calipers. Power calculation for the ICL was performed using the software provided by the manufacturer. The ICL diameter was determined following the manufacturer's recommendations based on the horizontal white to white and anterior chamber depth measured by the Scheimpflug imaging system. The ICL V4C model was used in all our patients. Now, total of 130 eyes with complete data were recruited. Group 1 eyes underwent ICL surgery with the use of OVD, which was HPMC, and Group 2 eyes underwent ICL surgery, which was OVD free with OVD free. So instead of OVD, we used balanced cell solution for implanting ICL. Now, return informed consent was obtained. Returned informed consent was obtained from each patient undergoing surgery. All surgeries were done by a single surgeon, and it was done under topical anesthesia via 3.2 mm temporal clear corneal incision. The anterior chamber was filled with viscoelastic device, and then with the incision, with the use of injector cartridge, the ICL was implanted, and the haptics were tucked in. The footplates were tucked in beneath the iris. The OVD was then manually irrigated out of the anterior chamber using DSS, and there was no preoperative or intraoperative peripheral iridectomy done. Now, in the second group, in the OVD-free group, the surgical procedure was similar, except there were two side ports which were created, one for the continuous infusion with the BSS by the patent irrigator to fill and maintain the anterior chamber, and other one was used for tucking the footplates of the ICL by the patent manipulator. And second, there was no OVD used, and thus completely eliminating the need for irrigation of the OVD at the end of surgery. Now, post-surgery, at each visit, patients were tested for their refractive status, intraocular pressure. Volt was measured using anterior segment OCT, and also specular microscopy was done at 3 months to look for endothelial cell loss. So in our study, we found that the operation time was significantly shorter in the OVD-free group, with mean surgical time being 12.5 to 14 minutes as compared to the OVD group, where the mean surgical time was around 17 to 20 minutes. Preoperatively, the mean spherical equivalent in both the groups were comparable. And it was around 12 diopters. Now, looking at the post-operative UDVA here, there was no significant difference noted among the two groups, and patients in both the groups had a mean UDVA of 6/9 at the end of 6 months and beyond. And only 3 months specular microscopy results were available with us. So mean endothelial cell loss was around 3.2% at the end of 3 months. and around 4.6% in OVD free group. And this difference was, however, not statistically significant. Now, with regards to IOP change, rise of IOP was noted in both the groups post-operatively at 4 hours from the time of surgery. However, the rise of IOP was significantly high in the OVD group, and tablet acetazolamide was given for a day to reduce the IOP, following which the IOP came back to normal levels in both the groups. Now, the post-operative vault was measured on day 1, where we noticed that the vault was slightly higher in the OVD group as compared to the OVD free group. However, it was well within the normal range, and the difference was not statistically significant. So to conclude, as compared to the OVD ICL implantation with OVD, OVD free implantation takes lesser time. It doesn't cause immediate post-operative IOP spike, is safe as it doesn't cause significant endothelial cell loss, and has comparable visual outcomes with the OVD group. Thank you.
Thank you very much for such a nice presentation. Dr. Rupal, would you like to ask some question? Dr. Sohail, Dr. Sagar, Dr. Nayak. Have you tried any other viscoelastic besides methylcellulose?
No, sir. We had tried using sodium hyaluronate, but because the time it consumes for it to, for the removal, it is really, time taking. So HPMC, whereas it helps in maintaining the anterior chamber bend, and removal is also quicker. So we preferred HPMC over sodium hyaluronate in our surgeries.
See, basically, you can do a hydroimplantation. I'm doing that one also. And if you're using sodium hyaluronate, or other things, the advantage is it's come in a bolus. You don't have a residual there.
Yeah.
So that's make the washing, it's not required too much of washing or anything. That saves you a lot of time also. It's very, very safe also. So I think both are good if you are comfortable. Yeah, with the hydroimplantation, if you want to do AC maintenance, I think it's a good technique. There's no harm.
Dr. Patel.
Yes, sir.
Have you find any difficulty in cases of the toric ICL?
Toric ICL, slightly in manipulating, definitely getting it
slightly
aligned.
More manipulation than, yes.
Yeah, slightly longer time. But we had toric ICLs in both the groups, comparable numbers. So the surgical time accordingly was slightly higher as compared to the non-toric ICLs. Manipulation was slightly difficult, but if you are if a senior surgeon is operating, then that really doesn't matter much.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
I think one should start with a viscoelastic, and once comfortable, they can switch over to hydro.
Yes, definitely.
And secondly, have you seen any incidents of flipping of IOL upside down or?
No, not in these cases. Not at all, sir. Because ours was not wound assisted. We injected the cartridge little within the anterior chamber, and then we injected the ICL.
Unfolding is as slow, it's a little faster compared to viscoelastic.
Yeah, slightly faster, but it was, there was not much difficulty in that. We didn't have any flipping of ICL.